we're going to look at drawing our front view of our cabinet. Now, this is an example. This is the one that we built in class. We're going to be drawing this in SketchUp, and I'm going to just minimize this over to the side a little bit so that I can continue to see it as I'm drawing. And I'm going to come to Google Classroom, and in Google Classroom, we have a few parameters laid out. We have some instructions for you to look at. We have an example plan. That's this document we were just looking at. I'm going to have a video. That's what you're watching right now. Here's the keyboard shortcuts, and I actually have those. So as we're working with a SketchUp web app, that we can see those keyboard shortcuts. And then I have my template at the bottom here. And I'm going to click right down here on the template. And we did this a little bit when we were setting up SketchUp initially, and you can download it to your computer, or we can do the connected app and use SketchUp for Schools, and it will open up to our SketchUp. You may have to sign in with your K-12 account if it has kicked you out, and we'll start drawing on here and show you how all this is laid out. All right, so my document opened up. I'm going to save this with a new name right away since this is the template. And I'm going to just go save as, and yes, no, it doesn't matter if you purge it or not. And I'm going to save it in my drive. And project plans, we created that folder during the setup yesterday, and I'm going to call this front view. So every time I'm working in this document or this plan, I just click on front view to come back and set it up. So all right, we're going to get started in drawing our example plans, and we're going to start by drawing the overall size of the box. So 28 inches tall, that's how tall the box is, by 12 inches wide. So I'm going to come out here and I'm going to grab the pencil looking tool or the line tool, or if you simply click L on your keyboard, right, you can refer to those shortcuts. And L right there is for line. So we're going to hit L to start drawing, and it doesn't matter where we click. We're going to click a point, and I'm going to pull it down, and your line should either be blue or green. It doesn't really matter as long as it's a solid color like that. We don't want black because black would indicate that we're not straight or in the right plane. So I want to be straight down, and I'm going to hit 28. And you'll notice that that 28 automatically appears over here in the right-hand corner. And all I have to do now is hit enter, and it snaps into a 28-inch long line. Now I'm going to take and draw to the right. I'm going to go 12 inches because that's how wide our cabinet was, 12, enter. And we're starting to get the outline of our example project here that we had plans pulled up for. Now remember, these are the example that we built in the class. That's what we're drawing. You can draw yours to whatever size you want that fits within the parameters of the project. You don't have to follow this exact size. Now, one thing you could do is you could pull it up and type 28 again, or what I can do is take my pencil and hover over this point here and start pulling it across, and you'll see a dotted line show up. And when that dotted line shows up, that indicates that we're straight across from that other point. So I can just click and then come over and complete the square. So this is the outside shape of our project. We are now going to start filling in the face frame pieces. So our face frame is typically 1.5 inches wide. We see one dimension here, 1.5 inches. This is 1.5 inches. So we're going to start with our stiles, which are 2 outside pieces. And we're going to come in here and draw from this line right here in the corner. I'm going to come towards the inside of the cabinet. It doesn't matter how far I pull it, right? Because now I'm going to type 1.5, enter. You see that line disappears because it is a short little line. It's somewhere in this project. So I'm going to just start dragging my cursor over top. That was the midpoint. We don't want that one. We want a dark green one. It should be the end point. And there it is, end point. And it says, that should be our 1.5 inch end. So I'm going to click there and pull it straight down and make sure it stays straight. It's got that green or blue line, and I'm going to hit click. I'm going to do the same thing from the other side. I'm going to click right here. I'm going to come towards the other side and type 1.5. You see that appears in the bottom right corner automatically, and hit enter. And now I'm going to come back and hover and find the endpoint, which is right there. I'm going to click and pull that straight down. And there are my two stiles. So now that our two stiles are created, we're going to work on our rails. We have the top rail, which is 1.5 inches, the middle or center rail, which is also going to be 1.5 inches, and the bottom rail is 4.5 inches because it's going to have a base trim that covers part of that bottom rail. So what we're going to do is let's start down here in the bottom, and we'll come up 4.5, 4.5, enter. And I'm going to just kind of hover till I find that green node. There it is, and pull that across. I'm going to do the same thing down, click here and pull straight down. Doesn't matter how far I pull it, just the right direction. And then I'm going to hit 1.5, enter, and come back along till I find that endpoint. There it is, and pull that across. So you can see my face frame is starting to come together. Now we need to know how big the opening is of this top drawer. So these are openings we see here. These are not doors and drawer fronts on there. We want to see just openings. So this is a 6-inch opening here. That's a standard size. We're going to follow that 6-inch opening. And then we have 1.5 inch face frame. So I'm going to come from this line down 6 inches, and that's going to be the top of that rail. So here I'm going to come from this point down 6 inches, 6, enter. And then I am going to come across, and that is the top edge of my rail. And I'm going to come down another 1.5 inches because that rail is 1.5 inches wide. And there is my face frame. Now we're going to go ahead and draw the top on here. And the top, you'll see, hangs off 1.5 inches off of each side. You see that right there, 1.5 inches, it's hanging off. And that's how far a standard size overhang is. So we're going to do 1.5 inches on each side. And this one's drawn to 3/4. You could draw it at 7/8. The material comes at 15/16. By the time you glue it together and sand it down, you're going to be somewhere between 7/8 and 3/4. So you could draw it 3/4 or 7/8. It doesn't matter which one you choose. So I'm going to click this outside corner here, and I'm going to pull it this direction. And I'm going to type 1.5. That's how much our overhang hangs off the cabinet. And we were going to draw this one up 7/8 for its thickness. Now I could pull this over, but I really don't have an end point to match up over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit escape to get off of this line. And then I'm going to come over to the other side here and click and come off this way 1.5, enter, and bring it up 7/8, enter. And now I can connect this end to this end, and I have my top. I hit escape to get off of my pencil tool, and there is my nightstand roughed in there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put the wood grain on there. So the other colors on here, this purplish blue color, that was just the default color of the background. You don't need to worry if yours is not blue like that. Yours is white. That's okay. And the text color doesn't have to be changed either. But we're going to put the wood grain on so we make sure we get pieces the right way. So I'm going to color these in, and we're going to do that with the paint bucket tool right here. The shortcut for the paint bucket tool is B for bucket, because P is already designated for printing. So B, we'll bring up our paint bucket, and we should already have some loaded wood grains in here from that template. So I'm going to start with the up and down, and those are my styles. So I'm going to put that in there and that in there. And then I'm going to take my right and left and put that there, there, and there. So I've got my wood grains on. Now I can't really see much wood grain right in here. We could always edit these and get them to be tighter or wider wood grain. So my width is at 73. I don't know, you could put it at 48 or something. Try something like that and see what it does out here. You can see the grain got a lot closer together. So we could also make the grain darker in there, but we don't want the grain to overpower the dimensions. So when we use the dimension tool, which the shortcut is D, or you can find it in the tools over there. So D is going to allow us to dimension these, and we don't want the wood grain to be darker than the dimension lines. It just kind of makes it hard to read. So as we start dimensioning this, and we've drawn this as big as we are going to, it's not going to get any bigger. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to hold Shift W, and that is going to allow me to draw a box around here. So I don't want to be real big, but I'm going to start over here and I want to draw a box around this, and it's going to zoom in to that project so I can get a little closer. You can see I still have full screen. I can still see everything in its entirety. So I didn't get zoomed in too close. This will allow me to get a little closer as I'm putting my dimensions on. So everything should be dimensioned. How big is the overhang? Okay. How big is the top? How tall is the project? Now, I don't want to overlap these, so I'm going to come over here and click this one. And if you already have a dimension, like 1.5 inches here, I'm going to assume that it's the same on this side since it looks the same. So you don't need to re-dimension over here if it's already done over here. So you can see this 1.5 inches is cut off, right? That one is right by that line. So what we're going to do is just I get this 4 arrows just popping up. I don't know why it's there, so I can move it, I guess, the move tool. But when that's there, if I control click or right click on your keyboard, you should get this menu that has text position. And you can try outside start or outside end, and it's all going to depend on where you first clicked. So try one and see what happens. That looks good. It popped it out there. Now, if I popped it in the other way, I wouldn't want that because that's even harder to read, right? So I'm going to put that back. What I do want it to do is be outside. Why isn't it moving? There you go. I do want it to be out here so I can read that text nice and legibly without it being cut over some of my dimension lines. So again, I need to dimension things from here to here. Okay, somewhere on the project, I don't want to get in too tight of a space, but I want to go from right to left. So 9 inches there. Overall, what's my project? And again, I don't want to pull these dimensions super far away because then when I go to print, I have to be zoomed out further in order to see all of the dimensions. So I want to keep things kind of tight to the project if I can, so that I don't have such a small printing when we go to print this. So I'm going to make sure everything is dimensioned. And again, we don't have to dimension everything. So if I dimension, let's say this style, and right, I got to click on that because it's cut off. So I'm going to control click or right click and text position, and I'm going to try start. There we go, kicked it out. So if I have this style dimensioned at 1.5 inches, I don't necessarily need to dimension this style. Okay, we're going to assume that those two parts that are the same are going to be the same width. But one of these that starts going differently, we can't really tell. Well, this one, we probably want to put some dimensions on. Again, that's cut off. We want to clean this up so we can have it look nicer. And text position, and there we go. It kicks it out inside. And maybe one on here as well. And pull that off. And I'm going to move that. Where's my text position? Text position to the start. So there we go. We've got these on the inside. That's fine that they're coming together like that. They're not overlapping. We can easily tell where each part is. All right, when we look at our plans here, our example, we need to have some things labeled, what the parts are. We want these plans to be detailed enough that your homeschool principal could come in and look at the plans and know what you're doing, that your mom and dad or anybody else could come in and either complete this project for you or look at these plans and have an understanding. So we're going to label these parts. And if we come over here to the toolbar, we can come down here to the third tool up, and we're looking for this text box with the leader line. Now, if we hover over it, it just says text, and there's another text up. Where is that? Here, I believe. Yep, there's another text And that's like a 3D text. We don't want that one. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to my search bar and we're going to set the text shortcut key. So I'm going to type text, and over here you can see it's not set. So I'm going to click there and push T, and your shortcut's already set to tape measure. Would you like to change it? Yes. Okay. I don't want tape measure to be a T. And you can see I have prompted you on that list to change that. Tape measure is no longer going to be T, but your text is going to be T. We're going to use text a lot, so we'll want it on here. So what I'm going to do is now hit T, and I'm going to click first what I want to point at. So I'm going to point right here, and then I'm going to drag it off wherever you want that labeling to go. Now, I don't want to go here because you can see I am crossing a line here, and I'm really close to this other dimension, and that can be kind of confusing. I could move it down here, but I'm still crossing a line, another dimension line. So I think I would rather put this out here where I'm not crossing any other dimension lines. Now it puts a number in there. We're going to just delete that and type what we want. This is a style, S-T-I-L-E. Okay. Now, as I click on the other side, if I click here and I come this way, again, I'm going to be crossing over that other dimension line, and I don't want that. So I'm going to actually bring this style into this area here, and I'm going to type this S-T-I-L-E. Okay, so I have my two styles, and then I've got some rails. So down here was a bottom rail. So I'm going to click right in here and put BOD bottom, and I can hit enter and do this in 2 rows, so 2 lines, so it's not so long. It doesn't start crossing over this other dimension. So I'm going to hit enter and rail. Okay, bottom rail. This one might get a little tricky up here, but I'm going to come right over by this arrow and pull it down and put top rail, 2 lines again. So I can kind of keep this organized. So that's my top rail. The only other thing is down here, my center rail or my middle rail is going to have to cross this line. So we're going to have to move this 9 later on because this text is going to be in the way. So I'm going to type here and I'm going to put center rail and click off of that. And I'm going to need to get this 9, and we're going to have to move it. So if you remember, the shortcut keys is M for move. So if I click M, it will allow me to grab it and drag it down. I don't want to go, I could go maybe here. I don't want to go here because I'm crossing text, but maybe I'll come right down here on this side where I'm out of the way. And I only need the 9 on there once, right? I only need it here because up here is the same distance. I don't need to do that again. So now we've got all of our labeling, all of our parts are labeled that need to be for this particular drawing. So it's labeled, it's dimensioned, it's got the grain running on there the right way. We don't have any grain up here on the top because that's kind of a small piece. It's going to not really fill in very well. You could put something like the end grain up there if you wanted, and we can edit that so it's not so big. So you can tell that the grain is running a little different. Make sure you always or often are saving. Remember, the autosave only saves every so often. So make sure you save your work so you don't lose it. So if you have any questions, please talk to your instructor. Let's go ahead and get those questions answered for you.